Welcome to Semester 2, Listening Experiences. This semester, we are going to look at 3 different genres, or different styles of music. First up, we'll look at 5 pieces that exemplify American concert band music. Then we'll look at 5 pieces of chamber music. That's smaller groups, music meant to be played in smaller environments. And then we'll look at the top 5 film scores as stated by the American Film Institute of all time. Okay, American concert band music is up first. Typically, this is a group of wind instruments along with percussion. Sometimes there are cellos, sometimes there are string bass players. That's not quite as common, but generally it's winds and percussion. The tradition goes all the way back to the Renaissance time. Gabrieli was one of the first people to write for winds only, not including strings. The 20th century is when the wind band really took off. And a lot of that is driven by public schools as well. Because there were a lot of people that wanted to play music, and it is kind of easier to learn to play a wind instrument than it is a string instrument. You could become much better, much faster on wind instruments, in my opinion. First piece up is our National March, John Philip Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever. In 1987, Congress officially named the Stars and Stripes Forever the National March of the United States of America. Prior to that time, we didn't have one. How did we survive that long without a national march? I don't know. Interesting story about this piece and when it was composed. John Philip Sousa was on tour in Europe with his grand concert band, and he was on the way home after he found out that his tour manager had passed away suddenly, and he was wandering around the ship just thinking about life in general and about his manager and how much he meant to him, and all of a sudden this tune just popped into his head completely when he was on this ocean liner. Something about it just got his creative juices flowing. And the way the story goes, when he got over to the United States, I think they landed in New York City, he went straight from his ocean liner to his hotel and wrote it down in its entirety with no changes. So he saw the whole piece in his head at once and just had that immediate inspiration. Now, he wrote 137 marches, so there's a format and a formula that he follows, but this one is, by a lot of people, consider this the most perfect piece of music ever written. At least the most perfect march. The trio section of Stars and Stripes at the end has the most famous piccolo solo in all of concert band literature. And you hear it and you're like, oh yeah, I know that. That thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. His autobiography is called Marching Along. I've read it a couple of times. It tells a lot of interesting stories about his life in the military and after the military. When he was one of the most well-known people on the earth for a while, 100 years ago. Because he wrote 137 marches, and they were so highly successful, his nickname became the March King. So a lot of times you'll see pictures of him in his military garb or other places in different outfits, and almost always it's the March King, Sousa. He joined the United States Marine Corps Band with his father. His father played horn in the band. And his father was afraid that young John Philip was going to run away and join the circus. So when he was 13 years old, he was marched down the street and said, "Hey, here's my son. He's going to play with us in the band." And they signed him up. Age 13. He did okay in there. He ended up being the band leader after a while. He served under 5 different U.S. presidents, and during his tenure, the band became known as the President's Own. The U.S. Marine Band, they're the ones that wear the red coats, and they play almost exclusively in Washington, D.C. Anytime the president needs something for a formal event, they're the first ones that get the call. His highest rank he ever achieved, however, was not in the Marine Corps. After he served in the Marines, he left and took a lot of the band with him and had a world-famous concert band that toured everywhere. And then he joined the Naval Reserve later on in World War I, and was given the honorary rank of lieutenant commander. That's in modern times, that's an 05. That's pretty high up there. So that's the highest rank he achieved. However, he wanted to not have a salary because he was one of the richest people on earth at the time. But they wouldn't let him do that, so they paid him a salary of $1 a year. And I think he donated that back. So with 137 marches out there, a lot of people are fortunate to play them because the U.S. Marine Band, in its modern version, has taken on the project of publishing all of them. So now you can download from their website recordings and all the sheet music for all of the marches for Sousa. There's a few of the newest ones that have already been published by other companies, but they're making all of them available back to the first few he ever did. So that's pretty neat. In 1893, Sousa got together with a man named J.W. Pepper, and they created this instrument called the sousaphone. It's basically a tuba that wraps around your body and makes it easier to play while you're walking down the street. Because Sousa often did parades, and he knew from his time in the military how hard it is to have your troops carrying a tuba while playing it. So that really increased the power of the bass section. Okay, we'll listen to just a little bit of this. And you can go listen to the whole thing by clicking on the link there.
John Philip Sousa led the Marine Band to new heights of popularity during his tenure as leader from 1880 to 1892. It was during this era that he earned the title the March King, a well-deserved nickname that continues to this day. Of the 136 marches he composed, one has stood out above all the rest. It was composed in 1896 as Sousa sailed back home from a long European vacation.
He said 136 marches. They found one, and they called it the Untitled March, so that's why we say 137. They found it in a steamer trunk.
The inspiration for this march was born of a combination of homesickness, fond memories of his time as leader of the Marine Band, and his stirring recollection of the American flag flying over the White House. The resulting march became his best-known work, and in 1987 it officially became our national march. The Stars and Stripes Forever.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. You can go on and listen to the rest of the piece on your own. Okay, that's our first one. Hope you enjoyed it.